The morning sun cast long shadows across the quiet hospital corridor as William walked slowly toward the room where his beloved Kate lay sleeping. His footsteps echoed softly against the polished floors, each step heavier than the last. The doctors had delivered the news just hours before, news that would change everything they had planned for their future together. Kate had been battling her illness with the same grace and determination she showed in everything else. For months, she had hidden her pain behind bright smiles and cheerful conversations, never wanting to burden William or their families with worry. But as autumn arrived, her condition had worsened rapidly, and even her strongest efforts could no longer mask the truth. William paused outside her door, gathering the courage he would need for what lay ahead. Through the small window, he could see Kate propped up against white pillows, her face pale but still radiating the gentle beauty that had captured his heart years ago. She was awake now, staring out at the garden beyond her window, where golden leaves danced in the morning breeze. When he entered the room, Kate turned toward him with a soft smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She knew, just as he did, that their time together was growing short. The unspoken understanding passed between them like a shared breath, heavy with love and sorrow. "Good morning, my love," William whispered, settling into the chair beside her bed. He reached for her hand, noting how fragile it felt in his own. Her wedding ring, once snug on her finger, now slipped easily as he gently caressed her palm. Kate squeezed his hand with what little strength she had left. "I've been waiting for you," she said softly. "I was watching the leaves fall and thinking about our first autumn together. Do you remember that walk we took through Hyde Park?" William's throat tightened as the memory flooded back. They had been so young then, so full of dreams and plans for the future. Kate had laughed as she kicked through piles of fallen leaves, her joy infectious and pure. He had known even then that he wanted to spend every autumn of his life with her. "I remember everything about that day," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "You wore that blue scarf that brought out your eyes, and you made me promise to take you back there every year." A tear slipped down Kate's cheek as she nodded. "We kept that promise for so long," she said. "Even when duty called us away, we always found our way back to that park, didn't we?" The weight of their shared history settled between them. Years of public service, private struggles, moments of pure happiness, and challenges that had only strengthened their bond. They had weathered storms that would have broken weaker couples, always finding their way back to each other's arms. As the morning wore on, Kate's energy began to fade, but she fought to stay present for every precious moment they had left. William told her stories of their children's latest adventures, painting pictures with his words of the life that would continue even after she was gone. He spoke of their son's first steps, their daughter's laughter, and all the little moments that made their family complete. "Promise me something," Kate whispered as the afternoon sun began to slant through the windows. "Promise me you'll help them remember not just how I died, but how I lived. Help them remember the joy, the laughter, the love we shared." William brought her hand to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her knuckles. "I promise," he said, meaning every word. "But you're not leaving us yet." "The doctor said we still have time." Kate's smile was peaceful, accepting. "Time is what we make of it," she said. "And we've made something beautiful together, haven't we?" Outside, the world continued its busy pace, unaware that in this quiet hospital room a love story that had captivated millions was approaching its most difficult chapter. The couple who had inspired so many with their devotion to each other and their country now faced the ultimate test of their bond. As evening approached, their families began to gather. Each visitor brought their own memories and their own grief, but also an overwhelming sense of gratitude for having witnessed such a profound love. Kate greeted each person with the same warmth and grace she had always shown, making sure everyone felt valued and heard. The night stretched long ahead of them, filled with whispered conversations, shared memories, and the quiet understanding that they were living through moments that would be treasured forever. William never left her side, holding vigil with the same devotion he had shown throughout their marriage. In the stillness of that hospital room, surrounded by the people who loved them most, William and Kate began the process of saying goodbye, not just to each other, but to the life they had built together, the dreams they had shared, and the future they had planned. It was the beginning of an ending that would touch hearts around the world. The second day brought a steady stream of visitors, each person carrying their own piece of Kate's story. Her sister arrived first, clutching a small photo album filled with childhood memories. Together, they flipped through pages of birthday parties, family vacations, and silly moments that only sisters could share. "Remember when you convinced me to climb that tree in Granny's garden?" Her sister laughed through her tears. "You were always the brave one, pushing me to try new things." Kate's eyes sparkled with the memory. "And you were always there to catch me when I fell," she replied. "You taught me that being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means doing what's right even when your hands are shaking." William watched from his corner chair as Kate's family and closest friends created a circle of love around her bed. Each person brought gifts that couldn't be wrapped. Stories, laughter, and the kind of presence that speaks louder than words. Her old college roommate shared tales of late-night study sessions and dreams they had spun together in their tiny dormitory room. "You always said you wanted to make a difference in the world," her friend recalled. "You were never content to just exist. You needed to matter, to help people, to leave things better than you found them." The conversation turned to Kate's charitable work, the causes she had championed, and the countless lives she had touched through her public service. Letters and cards from grateful families covered every surface in the room. Testimonies to a life lived with purpose and compassion. Young Mother had written about how Kate's visit to the children's hospital had given her hope during her daughter's treatment. A veteran spoke of the comfort Kate had provided during a particularly difficult rehabilitation program. Teachers, nurses, and community leaders all shared stories of how her genuine interest and kind words had sustained them through challenging times. "Listen to this one," William said, holding up a letter from a shy little girl. She says, "Dear Princess Kate, thank you for telling me it's okay to be different. When you came to our school and talked about how reading helps you when you feel sad, it made me feel less alone. I read every day now and I think of you." Kate's eyes filled with tears of gratitude rather than sorrow. "That little girl doesn't know it yet, but she taught me something too," she whispered. "She reminded me that courage isn't about being perfect, it's about being real." As the afternoon wore on, Kate's energy fluctuated like waves on a shore. During her stronger moments, she held court like the natural leader she had always been, asking about everyone else's lives and making sure no one felt forgotten or overlooked. When fatigue overtook her, she would rest while others shared their memories, letting their voices wash over her like a gentle lullaby. William found himself memorizing everything: the way the light caught the gold in her hair, the soft sound of her laughter when someone told a particularly funny story, the graceful way she moved her hands even in weakness. He wanted to capture every detail, knowing that soon these memories would be all he had left. "Tell me about the children," Kate requested during one of her alert periods. "What did they do today? What did they say?" William's face softened as he shared the morning's events. Their son had built an elaborate castle with his blocks, insisting it was big enough for Mummy to be comfortable when she came home. Their daughter had drawn a picture of the family holding hands under a rainbow, with hearts floating above their heads like balloons. "They understand more than we think they do," Kate said thoughtfully. "Children have a way of seeing straight to the truth of things. They know something important is happening, even if they can't name it yet." The conversation turned to the future, how to help their children navigate the difficult days ahead, how to preserve Kate's memory in meaningful ways, and how to ensure that her legacy would live on through the causes she cared about most. "I want them to remember that love isn't just a feeling," Kate said firmly. "It's a choice we make every day. It's showing up for people when it's hard, listening when they need to be heard, and fighting for what's right even when it costs us something." Her words carried the weight of lived experience. Throughout their marriage, Kate and William had chosen love repeatedly, through public scrutiny, personal challenges, and the constant pressure of their roles. They had shown the world that real love wasn't the fairy tale version found in storybooks, but something deeper and more resilient. As evening approached, Kate made a request that surprised everyone. She wanted to record a video message for her children, something they could watch when they were older and needed to hear her voice. With William's help, she sat up straighter in her bed and spoke directly to the camera with all the strength she could muster. Her words were simple but profound, filled with hopes for their futures and reminders of their inherent worth. She told them about the dreams she had for them, the values she hoped they would carry forward, and the unshakable truth that they were loved beyond measure. When the recording was finished, The room fell silent except for the quiet sounds of people trying to hold back tears. Kate had given them all a gift, not just the message itself, but the example of how to face difficult moments with grace and intention. That night, as her family gradually said their goodnights and departed for much-needed rest, Kate and William found themselves alone again. The room felt different now, charged with the emotional weight of the day but also lighter somehow, as if sharing her love with others had multiplied rather than diminished it. The third morning brought an unexpected visitor, Kate's childhood piano teacher, now elderly but still carrying herself with the same dignified posture that had once intimidated a young Kate during lessons. Mrs. Henderson had traveled from her small countryside home, bringing with her a worn sheet of music that Kate had written as a teenager. "I kept this all these years," the old woman said, her voice trembling with emotion. "You composed it after your grandfather passed away. You called it Remember the Light." Kate's fingers traced the faded notes on the yellowed paper, and suddenly she was 16 again, pouring her grief into music because she couldn't find words adequate enough to express her loss. The melody had been simple but haunting, capturing both sorrow and hope in its gentle progression. "Would you like me to play it?" Mrs. Henderson asked, gesturing toward the small keyboard that someone had brought to the room. Kate nodded, closing her eyes as the familiar melody filled the space. The music carried her back through the years, to piano recitals where her family beamed from the audience, to quiet evenings when she played for William during their courtship, to the lullabies she had hummed while rocking her babies to sleep. William reached for her hand as the last notes faded away. In that simple piece of music, they could hear echoes of all the other songs that had marked their life together. Their wedding march, Christmas carols sung by candlelight, the silly songs they made up to make their children laugh. "Music has a way of holding memories," Kate said softly. "Long after we're gone, a melody can bring someone back to us." The day continued with a parade of meaningful moments. Kate's personal secretary arrived with boxes of letters from people around the world. Soldiers serving overseas, single mothers struggling to make ends meet, children facing their own health battles. Each letter told a story of how Kate's example had provided strength during difficult times. One letter particularly moved her. It came from a young woman who had lost her mother in a car accident and found comfort in Kate's speeches about resilience and hope. "You showed me that grief doesn't have to be the end of the story," the woman had written. "You taught me that we can honor those we've lost by living fully and loving deeply." Kate asked William to keep that letter for their daughter, knowing that someday their child might need the same reminder about transforming pain into purpose. As the afternoon progressed, Kate grew more introspective. She spoke about the weight of public life, the challenges of maintaining authenticity while living in the spotlight, and the unexpected gifts that had come from serving others. "I used to worry so much about saying the wrong thing or disappointing people," she admitted. "But I learned that perfection was never the goal. Connection was. When I stopped trying to be flawless and started being real, that's when the magic happened." William remembered those early years when Kate had struggled with the intense scrutiny that came with her role. She had been criticized for her fashion choices, analyzed for every facial expression, and judged by impossible standards. But gradually she had found her voice and her confidence, becoming a beacon of authenticity in a world that often valued appearance over substance. "You changed the game," William told her. "You showed people that royalty doesn't mean being untouchable. It means being willing to touch others' lives." The conversation turned to their travels. Together, the villages they had visited in developing countries, the hospitals where they had sat with grieving families, the schools where they had listened to children's dreams and fears. Each trip had changed them, adding layers to their understanding of the world and their place in it. Kate shared a story that William had never heard before. During a visit to a refugee camp, she had met a young mother who was fleeing violence with her 3 small children. The woman had lost everything but still found ways to comfort and protect her family. "She taught me what real strength looks like," Kate said. "It's not about never falling down. It's about getting back up for the people who need you." That woman had every reason to give up, but she kept going because love demanded it. The story prompted others to share their own memories of Kate's impact. A nurse recalled how Kate had stayed late at a hospital event to hold a crying child whose parents couldn't be there. A teacher remembered how Kate had taken time to encourage a struggling student, boosting the child's confidence in ways that lasted long after the royal visit ended. "You have this gift," her sister observed. "You make people feel seen. In a world where everyone is rushing around, you actually stop and pay attention. You listen with your whole heart." Kate smiled weakly but genuinely. "I think that's because I know what it feels like to need someone to really see you," she said. "We all have moments when we feel invisible or forgotten. If I could be the person who notices, who cares, who remembers, then maybe those moments don't have to hurt so much." As evening shadows began to lengthen across the hospital room, Kate made another request. She wanted to write letters to her children for specific milestones in their futures, their graduations, their weddings, the births of their own children. She wanted to be present for those moments, even if only through her words. William helped her sit up straighter and arranged pillows to support her as she began the delicate work of crafting messages for days she would never see. Her handwriting was shaky but determined, each word chosen with careful intention. "What will you tell them about their mother?" she asked William as she paused between letters. William considered the question carefully. "I'll tell them that you loved with your whole heart," he said finally. "That you never did anything halfway. That you believed people were fundamentally good and worth fighting for. That you taught us all how to be better than we thought we could be." Kate nodded, satisfied with his answer. She returned to her letters, pouring years of motherly wisdom and unconditional love onto pages that would someday be among her children's most treasured possessions. The room grew quiet except for the soft scratch of pen on paper and the gentle sounds of Kate's breathing. Outside, the world continued its busy pace, but inside that small space, time seemed suspended as a mother wrote love letters to the future. The fourth day brought Kate's children to visit, their innocent faces a mixture of confusion and trust as they entered the sterile hospital room that had become their mother's temporary world. William had prepared them as gently as possible, explaining that Mummy was very sick and needed to rest, but that she wanted to spend special time with them. Their son, at 6 years old, approached Kate's bedside with the careful steps of a child who sensed something important was happening, but couldn't quite grasp its magnitude. He carried a drawing he had made at school, a family of stick figures standing in front of a house with a garden full of flowers. "I drew us in our garden at home," he said, climbing carefully onto the bed beside Kate. "The teacher said families are like gardens. They grow together and take care of each other." Kate's heart swelled as she studied the colorful picture. In her son's innocent artistry, she could see the security and love that had surrounded his young life. The stick figure representing her stood in the center, arms outstretched toward the others, protecting and embracing her family even in crayon form. "This is the most beautiful picture I've ever seen," Kate whispered, holding the drawing close to her heart. "Will you help me put it where I can see it always?" Together they taped the artwork to the wall beside her bed, creating a spot of color and joy in the clinical white room. Their daughter, only 4 years old, watched with wide eyes before presenting her own gift, a small bouquet of dandelions she had picked from the hospital garden. "These are wishing flowers," the little girl announced solemnly. "If you blow on them and make a wish, it comes true. I saved some wishes for you, Mummy." Kate accepted the weedy bouquet as if it were made of the finest roses. She understood the profound trust her daughter was showing, sharing her most precious beliefs about magic and hope with someone she loved. The dandelions were already beginning to wilt, but they represented something far more valuable than their appearance suggested. "What should we wish for?" Kate asked, gathering both children close to her, on the narrow hospital bed. "For you to feel better," her son said, immediately. "For our family to always be together," added their daughter. Kate looked at William over their children's heads, and in that glance, they shared an entire conversation about how to honor their children's innocent wishes while accepting the reality they faced. Kate took a gentle breath and blew softly on one of the dandelion heads, watching the white seeds dance away on the air. "I wished for you both to always remember how much Mummy and Daddy love you," she said, "and for you to be kind to each other and to everyone you meet." The children took turns making their own wishes, their faces serious with the importance of the ritual. William watched, memorizing every detail, the way Kate's face lit up when their daughter giggled, the careful way their son arranged the remaining dandelions in a water glass, the comfortable way both children snuggled against their mother as if her love was the most natural shelter in the world. They spent the Afternoon engaged in the simple activities that had always filled their family time. Kate read stories with different voices for each character, just as she had always done. They played gentle word games and sang silly songs that made the children forget where they were. "Tell us about when we were babies," their daughter requested, a favorite topic that never grew old. Kate launched into familiar stories, how their son had been born during a thunderstorm and slept peacefully through all the noise, how their daughter had arrived 3 weeks early as if she couldn't wait to meet her family. She told them about their first steps, their first words, and all the little moments that had made her heart burst with pride and joy. "You were both such good babies," she said, stroking their hair. "But you know what made you extra special? It wasn't just how sweet you were. It was how you made everyone around you want to be better. You brought out the best in people just by being yourselves." The children beamed at this praise, storing away these words in the deep places where children keep their most treasured memories. William realized that Kate was giving them something precious, not just love, but a foundation of self-worth that would support them through whatever challenges lay ahead. As afternoon melted into evening, Kate's energy began to fade, but she fought to stay present for every moment with her children. She helped them with a simple puzzle, listened to their excited chatter about school and friends, and answered their endless questions with the patience that had always characterized her mothering. "Will you always live here now?" their son asked, looking around the hospital room with concern. Kate chose her words carefully. "Sometimes people have to stay in special places when they're sick," she explained. "But home isn't really about the building where you sleep. It's about the people who love you. Wherever Mummy is, you'll always be in my heart, and wherever you are, I'll always be watching over you." The children accepted this explanation with the remarkable adaptability of youth. They understood that something was different, but their trust in their parents' love remained unshaken. To them, if Mummy said everything would be okay, then it would be. When it came time for the children to leave for the evening, Kate held each of them a little longer than usual. She whispered private words of love in their ears, special messages just for them that they would carry forward like talismans against future sorrows. "Remember to help Daddy," she told their son. "You're such a good big brother and such a kind helper. Take care of your sister and let her take care of you too." To their daughter, she said, "Keep being brave and curious about everything. Ask lots of questions and don't be afraid to try new things. Your smile can light up any room." William walked the children to where their nanny waited to take them home, promising to return soon. In the hallway, their son turned back toward Kate's room with a worried expression. "Daddy, why does Mummy look so tired all the time now?" he asked. William knelt down to his son's level, searching for words that would be honest but not frightening. "Sometimes when people are very sick, their bodies have to work extra hard just to do normal things," he explained. "Mummy is using all her energy to spend time with us because we're the most important thing in her whole world." The boy nodded solemnly, then surprised William with his next question. "Is she going to go away like Grandpa did?" William's throat tightened as he realized his son understood more than any 6-year-old should have to. "Mummy loves us very much," he said carefully. "And no matter what happens, that love will never go away. It will always be with us, keeping us strong and helping us take care of each other." When William returned to Kate's room, he found her staring at the children's drawings on the wall, tears streaming down her face. But when she looked at him, her expression was peaceful rather than devastated. "They're going to be okay," she said with quiet certainty. "They have your strength and your kindness. They have each other, and they have a lifetime of love to carry them through." The 5th day arrived with a sense of urgency that everyone could feel but no one wanted to acknowledge. Kate's condition had weakened noticeably overnight, and the medical team's gentle but concerned expressions told a story that words couldn't soften. This would likely be their last full day together, and everyone seemed determined to make it count. William had spent the sleepless night hours writing his own letter to Kate, something he could never say aloud while she was listening, words too heavy with emotion to speak in her presence. He tucked the sealed envelope into his jacket pocket, knowing that someday, when the grief had settled into something more manageable, he would read it at her favorite spot in their garden. Kate woke that morning with unusual clarity, as if her spirit had gathered all its remaining strength for one final outpouring of love. She asked William to help her sit by the window, where she could see the hospital garden and feel the autumn sunlight on her face. "I want to tell you something," she said, taking his hand in both of hers. These past few days, surrounded by everyone we love, sharing all these memories, this has been a gift. I know that sounds strange, but it's true. How many people get the chance to say everything they need to say? How many people get to feel this much love before they go? William's eyes filled with tears, but he nodded, understanding what she meant. In their grief, they had discovered something profound about the power of intentional goodbye. Instead of sudden loss leaving things unsaid, they had been given the precious opportunity to complete their love story with purpose and meaning. I need you to know, Kate continued, her voice growing stronger with conviction, that every single day with you has been worth it. Every challenge we faced, every moment of joy we shared, every ordinary Tuesday when nothing special happened but we were together, all of it was worth it. She talked about their wedding day, not the grand ceremony that the world had watched, but the quiet moments between them. The way William had whispered "I love you" during their vows, the secret smile they had shared when a bee landed on her bouquet, the feeling of completeness when they signed their names together for the first time. "Do you remember our first dance?" she asked. Not the formal one for the cameras, but later that night when everyone had gone and we were alone in our room. You put on that old song, and we danced in our bare feet with my wedding dress trailing behind us. William smiled through his tears. He remembered how magical that moment had felt, finally alone after the most public day of their lives, swaying together in the moonlight streaming through their window. Kate had laughed when she stepped on the hem of her dress, and he had lifted her off her feet, spinning her around until they both felt dizzy with happiness. That's when I knew, Kate continued, not during the ceremony with all its grandeur, but in that quiet moment when it was just us. That's when I understood what forever meant. As the morning progressed, Kate asked to speak privately with different family members. She had specific messages for each person, words of gratitude, requests for the future, and the kind of intimate sharing that can only happen when someone is preparing to leave. To her mother, she expressed gratitude for the foundation of love and strength that had shaped her into the woman she became. To her father, she spoke of his quiet wisdom and the way he had always made her feel capable of anything. To her sister, she shared memories of their childhood bond and asked her to help William navigate the difficult conversations that would be needed with the children in the years ahead. Each conversation was both heartbreaking and healing, giving people the chance to say things that might otherwise have remained unspoken. Kate had always been skilled at bringing out the best in others, and even in her final hours, she was creating space for honesty and connection. When William's brother arrived, Kate asked him to promise that he would help William remember how to laugh again. "He's going to forget for a while," she said wisely. "Grief has a way of making everything feel impossible. But somewhere down the road, he'll need someone to remind him that joy isn't a betrayal of my memory, it's a celebration of it." The afternoon brought a video call with close friends who couldn't travel to be there in person. The technology felt inadequate for such an important goodbye, but Kate made the most of it, ensuring that each person felt her love and appreciation across the digital distance. One friend who lived overseas shared how Kate's example had inspired her to volunteer with refugee families in her new country. Another spoke of starting a scholarship fund for underprivileged children after being moved by Kate's work in education. Even in her final days, Kate was learning about the ripple effects of a life lived with purpose. "This is what I want you all to remember," Kate said to the group gathered around her laptop screen. "We don't have to be perfect to make a difference. We just have to care enough to try. Every small act of kindness matters. Every moment we choose love over fear changes something in the world." As the day drew toward evening, Kate grew more tired but also more peaceful. She had said what needed to be said, shared what needed to be shared, and given pieces of herself to everyone who mattered. The frantic energy of the previous days had settled into something calmer, deeper. "I want to watch the sunset," she told William. "Can you open the curtains wide?" Together they watched as the sky transformed into shades of gold and pink, the same colors that had painted their wedding day. Kate leaned against William's shoulder, feeling the warmth of his presence and the comfort of their shared silence. "Promise me something," she whispered, as the last light faded from the sky. "Promise me you'll find ways to be happy again. Not right away, take all the time you need to grieve. But eventually, promise me you'll let joy back into your life." William promised, meaning it even though he couldn't imagine how happiness would ever feel natural again. Kate had always understood him better than he understood himself. And even now, she was thinking ahead to his healing. As night settled over the hospital, Kate made one final request. She wanted to record a message for the world, not as a princess or a public figure, but as a woman who had been loved and who had tried to love others well. With William's help, she sat up straight and spoke directly to the camera, her voice weak but her message strong. "Thank you," she said simply. "Thank you for letting me be part of your lives, for trusting me with your stories, for showing me what courage looks like in everyday moments. Take care of each other. Choose kindness whenever you can. And remember that love is the only thing that really lasts." When the recording was finished, Kate settled back into her bed with a sense of completion. She had lived fully, loved deeply, and said goodbye with intention. Whatever happened next, she was ready. The sixth day dawned gray and quiet, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Kate had slept peacefully through the night, her breathing steady but shallow, her hand never leaving William's as he maintained his vigil beside her bed. When she woke in the early morning hours, there was a serenity about her that hadn't been there before, the look of someone who had made peace with what was coming. "Good morning, my love," William whispered, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. "How are you feeling?" Kate smiled softly, her eyes still bright despite her body's weakness. "Like I'm exactly where I need to be," she replied. "Like everything has led to this moment, and it's perfect just as it is." The medical staff moved quietly around them, checking monitors and adjusting medications, their professional efficiency tinged with genuine affection for the patient who had touched all their hearts. Kate had that effect on people. Even in her illness, she had remembered their names, asked about their families, and thanked them for their care with the same grace she showed to world leaders. As the morning progressed, Kate's immediate family gathered once more. There was no need for elaborate goodbyes now. Everything important had been said over the previous days. Instead, they simply surrounded her with presence, creating a circle of love that felt both protective and peaceful. Kate asked William to read aloud from a book of poetry they had shared throughout their marriage. His voice, though thick with emotion, filled the room with familiar words about love that transcends time and hope that outlasts sorrow. The poems had always been their private language, a way of saying things too beautiful for ordinary conversation. "Read the one about the garden," Kate requested softly, referring to a piece about how love plants seeds that continue growing long after the gardener is gone. As William's voice carried the gentle verses, Kate closed her eyes and seemed to draw strength from the metaphors of seasons changing, flowers blooming and life continuing in new forms. Their children arrived mid-morning, still too young to fully understand what was happening, but old enough to sense the solemnity of the moment. They climbed carefully onto Kate's bed, settling on either side of her like bookends supporting their mother's final chapter. "Tell us a story, Mommy," their daughter requested, snuggling close to Kate's side. Kate began spinning a tale about a brave princess who went on a long journey to a faraway kingdom where she could watch over all the people she loved from the highest tower in the land. In her story, the princess could see everything. Every scraped knee that needed kissing, every bedtime that required an extra hug, every important moment when her family needed to feel her love. "And the best part," Kate continued, her voice growing softer but filled with warmth, "is that even though the princess lived far away, her love was so strong that it could travel anywhere instantly. Whenever her children needed her, they could feel her love wrapping around them like the warmest blanket, reminding them how special and brave they were." The children listened intently, absorbing this story that would become one of their most treasured memories. Kate had always been masterful at weaving life lessons into simple tales, and even now, she was giving them a framework for understanding her continued presence in their lives. "Will the princess always be able to see us?" their son asked, his 6-year-old mind trying to grasp the concept. "Always," Kate assured him, touching his cheek gently. "Love doesn't disappear when someone goes on a long journey. It gets stronger and spreads wider, touching everyone who needs it." As the afternoon approached, Kate's breathing became more labored, but her spirit remained peaceful. She had accomplished everything she needed to do. Her letters were written, her messages recorded, her love distributed to all who mattered. There was a completeness about these final hours that felt almost sacred. William never left her side, holding her hand and whispering words of love and gratitude. Sometimes he shared memories of their happiest moments. Other times he simply sat in comfortable silence, letting their connection speak without words. The depth of their bond had always been evident to those around them, but in these final hours it seemed to fill the very air they breathed. "Do you remember what you told me on our first anniversary?" Kate asked during one of her alert moments. William smiled, the memory coming back clearly. "I said that loving you had taught me what I was really capable of, that you made me want to be worthy of the love you gave me." "You were always worthy," Kate replied firmly, "but I understood what you meant. Love changes us, doesn't it? It makes us braver, kinder, more willing to put someone else's happiness before our own." As evening shadows began to lengthen, Kate made one final request. She wanted to hear the song that had played during their first dance as a married couple. William found the melody on his phone, and the familiar notes filled the quiet room with memories of that magical night when their life together had officially begun. Kate closed her eyes and seemed to drift back to that moment. The feeling of absolute joy, the certainty that they were meant to be together, the promise of all the years that lay ahead. Though their time had been shorter than they had hoped, it had been filled with more love and meaning than many people find in much longer lives. "Thank you," she whispered to William as the song faded away. "Thank you for every day, every laugh, every tear we shared. Thank you for giving me the most beautiful life I could have imagined." As night fell completely, Kate's family maintained their loving vigil. The room was filled with quiet conversation, gentle laughter at shared memories, and the kind of peaceful presence that honors a life well lived. There was sadness, certainly, but also gratitude for having been part of something so beautiful. Kate passed away peacefully just after midnight, surrounded by everyone who loved her most. Her final breath came quietly without struggle, as if she was simply stepping from one room into another. William held her hand as her spirit departed, feeling the profound stillness that follows the completion of something sacred. In the days that followed, the world mourned with William and his family. The messages that poured in from around the globe testified to Kate's impact, not just as a royal figure, but as a human being who had touched countless lives with her authentic compassion and unwavering grace. The children's drawings remained on the hospital room wall until the very end, a reminder that love expressed in simple ways often carries the greatest power. Kate's dandelion bouquet, now dried and fragile, was carefully preserved as a symbol of the wishes and hopes that would continue to bloom in the lives she had touched. William kept his promise to help their children remember not just how their mother had died, but how she had lived. In the months and years that followed, he would share stories of her laughter, her courage, her dedication to making the world a little bit better. He would teach them that grief and gratitude could coexist, that missing someone deeply was simply proof of how much love had been shared. The final video Kate had recorded was shared with the world, her message of love and hope resonating far beyond what she could have imagined. In choosing to say goodbye with such grace and intentionality, she had given everyone watching an example of how to face life's greatest challenges with dignity and faith. Her legacy lived on in the causes she had championed, the people she had inspired, and most importantly, in the two children who carried her values forward into the future. The brave princess from Kate's final story had indeed found her way to that high tower, watching over all those she loved and continuing to spread the kind of love that changes the world, one heart at a time.